Chapter 1 Fellerin. Fellerin slowly exhaled and scanned the trees for the slightest signs of movement. The afternoon rainforest was deathly quiet. She didn't dare make a sound. The torrential storms and flash floods of the rainy season were past them, but it still rained every morning for 3 hours. It would be like that for another few weeks. This was one of the worst times of the year. Everywhere, the foliage was wet and sticky. The heat of the sun beat down on the canopy, made the air near the forest floor stiflingly humid. To make matters worse, most of the predators were resting in their lairs all throughout the rainy season. Now that the strongest of the storms were done, the rainforest was filled with dangerous hunters, each desperate for a fresh meal. Fellerin looked to her left and was pleased to see Timon carefully moving to his position within a cluster of moss-covered trees. Both of them needed clear shots at the beast with no risk of crossing each other's firing lines. Fellerin quietly nocked an arrow and waited. The entire plan depended on Atia's ability to lure the beast into position. Atia slowly crept forward, taking care to gradually shift her weight from foot to foot so as to not make a simple sound as she moved. Fellerin was amazed at how good the girl was at it. Still, she had reservations with letting one so young take point on this dangerous of a hunt. Normally, one of the elder path runners took responsibility, but Atia left at the chance to volunteer. Her confidence was inspiring, but dangerous. One slip, one fall, or one wrong move, and all the confidence in the world wouldn't protect her from being ripped to shreds. Last season, the black tide abandoned its normal path and traveled south along the Serpent instead. The change disrupted wildlife all throughout the rainforest. Fellerin saw signs of it on her journey back from that horrible Ghana farm where she failed Claudia and Caleb. It was hard to process all that happened since then. The black tide and the assault that followed claimed hundreds of lives. Still, losing Caleb and Claudia bothered her most. Fellerin was outside when the demons attacked the Great Hall. She was lucky. Like many of the Pathfinders, she was tending to the moats and clearing the area of any remaining clusters of giant ants. Only the wounded Pathfinders were inside when the attack started. Fellerin didn't even hear the doors to the Great Hall explode. Rustling in the leaves up ahead jarred her back into focus. The beast they were hunting left no tracks in the wet ground, even in places where it made a kill. It must be using the thick lower canopy branches to move about, she thought. Other details about the recent deaths in the area were inconsistent. Whatever was hunting in the region favored farmers to the local wildlife. Beasts that preferred to hunt humans weren't unheard of, but they weren't exactly common either. 6 farmers went missing in the last 3 weeks. They found 4 of the bodies, but none before the insects and other rainforest scavengers got to them. Even with most of the flesh stripped away, there were still things to learn from the corpses. 3 of the 4 had a fair number of broken bones, mostly in the upper body. Whatever attacked them did so from above. It bit them and then thrashed. That ruled out a big cat. Jungle cats preferred to kill by biting through the skull. Whatever was doing this was much bigger, but far less precise. The 4th body was confusing. The corpse didn't have broken bones. There were no tracks of any kind, and no signs of a struggle anywhere near where they found it. Something grabbed the man and pulled him up into the canopy and moved through the rainforest, all without breaking a single bone. Fellerin was certain whatever was responsible for the 4th body, and possibly the 2 missing farmers, differed from what killed the other 3. What was it? A constricting snake would have consumed the body, bones and all. Giant spiders could have done it, but they would have dragged the body to a nest or web. A high branch up ahead shook, causing leaves to rustle and setting a curtain of interwoven vines into motion. Something heavy was moving through the canopy. Valerin tried to follow the motion to find whatever it was, but the foliage was just too thick. Atia stood perfectly still. Her leather armor, stained with mottled green and brown ink, was further enhanced with runes of concealment. The runes made her armor work much like a chameleon's skin. She was very difficult to see in the forest while motionless. She was looking up into a tree off to her left. Valerin followed Atia's gaze. She couldn't quite discern what Atia was looking at. The dense leaves, mosses, and hanging vines obscured everything. Valerin thought the foliage seemed a few shades darker than normal. Ordinarily, the leaves displayed a soft, luminescent warmth from the light of the sun bathing down from above. Valerin saw no evidence of light when she looked up into this tree. Everything was just a tangled collage of rich yellows and dark greens. The leaves and colors shifted. Something was definitely moving. But what? The golden leaves gently rustled back and forth. But the deep emerald leaves were moving in a singular direction. Valerin's pulse raced, and her mouth felt like it was filled with cotton when she realized what she was seeing. There were no green leaves. Those were reptilian scales, scales large enough to appear like leaves when not in motion. Right then, the rainforest came alive in a chaotic flurry of sounds and motion. "Atia, get out of there!" shouted Valerin. Fortunately, Atia was already moving. The beast leapt down from high within the canopy to land on the thick lower branches. It whipped its long neck down to the forest floor with amazing speed, its jaws snapping shut right where Atia was standing a mere breath ago. Valerin hadn't seen a forest drake in years. Its scales were a complex mosaic of different shades of green, making it almost impossible to see against the backdrop of the canopy. Leathery brown skin stretched from the beast's forelegs down to the base of its tail. Forest drakes couldn't fly, but much like some types of squirrels, they could glide between branches. The drake hissed and crawled forward along the sturdy branch it was perched on. All four of its legs ended in wicked claws with long talons that easily dug into the water-logged wood, including its 10-foot neck and its even longer tail. The thing was almost 30 feet long. It lashed out again towards the forest floor, its long serpentine neck snaking between trees and branches in pursuit of its prey. Atia turned to face it, leaping back just in time to keep herself out of its jaws. She was teasing it and making it chase. Valerin didn't know if she could cheer or scream. Not even Constance would try to taunt this powerful of a beast. "Atia, into the ravine! Now! I don't care if it follows you!" screamed Valerin in desperation. The sounds of breaking branches and shaking leaves caused her heart to race. The plan was working. The drake was following Atia, but Valerin didn't care anymore. She desperately wanted to fire her bow now. Just a few more steps, and the drake would trip the snare. But stars above, it was so damn fast. What if it got to Atia before springing the trap? Would the snare be strong enough to hold it? Atia turned and sprinted, keeping low enough to dance through a space where thick branches from two trees grew together, intertwined. The trunks of those trees were close enough to form a natural barrier in the lower canopy, forcing the reptilian horror to either descend to the forest floor or abandon its pursuit. The drake leapt from the branches, smoothly gliding to the ground. It didn't even miss a step as it darted beneath the low branches, following its prey. Atia swung around a tree trunk and slid into a shallow ravine. Fellerin drew her bowstring to her chin and waited for the drake to follow. Just a few more steps, she thought. There was a thunderous crash as the drake triggered the snare. Ropey vines twined around one of its forelegs, yanking the beast to the sound as a bent tree whipped back to its upright position. Now! Shouted Fellerin as she let her first arrow fly. Timon fired as well. One arrow bit into the flank of the thrashing drake. The second deflected off to the side. Keep firing! She shouted as she sent a second and then a third arrow toward the beast. The drake was biting at the vines, thrashing wildly. The combination of its thick scales and frenzied motion caused many of the arrows to harmlessly carom off to the side. A few sank into its body, but Fellerin worried it wouldn't be enough. This was a much bigger threat than she was prepared for. The sound of the tree cracking made Fellerin's blood run cold. Vines still held the beast, but the tree itself snapped. She quickly sank another arrow into the drake while it struggled to free itself from the snare. Get out of there! Screamed Fellerin as the drake ripped the vines free from the snapped tree. She knew there were a couple ways out of the ravine, but none of them were easy to navigate. The forest drake wasted no time diving forward into the ravine to resume its hunt. Hello, I'm John Rosenbaum, narrator of the book Gathering of the Fallen, Rebirth of the Fallen, Book 2. I want to thank J R Konkol, the author of this book, for letting me join him on this project and helping to create this great audiobook. If you want to listen to this title in its entirety, go ahead and take a look at it on Audible. If you don't have Audible and you still want to go ahead and listen to it, don't worry, I've got you covered. For a 30-day free trial, you can not only listen to this title, but tens of thousands of titles on Audible. And if you decide you like it, go ahead and for only $7.95 per month, you'll have access to tens of thousands of titles that you can listen to for a smorgasbord of auditory all-you-can-eat buffet. If that isn't enough and you want something that's even more exclusive, check out Amazon's Premium Plus catalog that will give you access to hundreds of thousands of titles. Same 30-day free trial. And if you decide you like it, it's only $149.50 per year. That breaks down to only $12.46 per month. On top of that, they'll also give you 12 free titles in which you can go towards any book in their entire catalog. From nonfiction to sci-fi epic fantasy to self-improvement books, there's something for everyone. You can cancel at any time with no foul. The best part is, any book that you purchased or used a credit for is yours to keep forever when you cancel. Don't miss out. Click on the links below to start listening smarter with Audible today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.